Introduction: the Sphinx and the Suppression of Knowledge. From the moment I first learned about the Great Sphinx of Giza, I was captivated by its mystery towering over the desert. The Sphinx seemed to embody ancient wisdom, guarding secrets lost to time. But as I began to explore the history of this monument, I discovered a deeper mystery. One not about the Sphinx itself, but about the way its history has been told. Over the centuries, the story of the Sphinx has been shaped by the hands of Western scholars, and much of its true African identity has been deliberately erased or distorted. This isn't just an academic oversight. It's the result of a systematic effort to disconnect ancient Egypt from its African roots. The mainstream narrative that dominates textbooks, documentaries, and museums tends to present ancient Egypt as an anomaly, a glorious civilization that arose independently, as though it were somehow separate from the rest of Africa. But the evidence tells a very different story. The truth is that Egypt was not an isolated wonder in the desert. It was part of the rich cultural and historical continuum of Africa. Yet, this African identity, particularly when it comes to the Sphinx, has been marginalized and suppressed thanks to centuries of colonialism and Eurocentric Egyptology. The Sphinx itself, with its lined body and human head, is more than just a monument. It's a symbol of African culture, spirituality, and knowledge. But over time, much of this symbolism has been stripped away, and the Sphinx has been reinterpreted through a Western lens that often downplays or outright ignores its African significance. One of the clearest examples of this is the controversy surrounding the Sphinx's face. Many scholars and travelers throughout history have noted that the original features of the Sphinx, particularly its nose and lips, resembled African physiognomy, features that were later damaged or destroyed. This destruction, I believe, was no accident. It was a symbolic erasure of the Sphinx's African identity, much like the broader erasure of Africa's contributions to Egyptian civilization. What I found even more troubling was how the Sphinx's African roots have been consistently ignored or downplayed in the field of Egyptology. Much of the Western scholarship surrounding Egypt has portrayed it as a precursor to Western civilization, emphasizing its connections to Greece and Rome, while ignoring its African heritage. This disconnect is not just an innocent misunderstanding. It's part of a deliberate effort fueled by colonialism to deny Africa its rightful place in world history. It wasn't until I encountered the work of Afrocentric scholars like Cheikh Anta Diop, Ivan van Sertima, and Chancellor Williams that I began to see the full scope of this erasure. These scholars, despite facing significant resistance from mainstream academics, have provided compelling evidence that Egypt was, first and foremost, an African civilization. Diop's groundbreaking research demonstrated that the early Egyptians were ethnically African, while Van Sertima's study showed how Africa's civilizations, including those in the Nile Valley, predate many of the achievements that we now attribute solely to Egypt. Williams exposed the systematic destruction of black civilizations and the colonial forces that reshaped the way we understand Egypt's past. Their work gave me a new lens through which to view the Sphinx, a lens that reconnected it to the African civilizations from which it emerged. This book is my attempt to build on their work, to reclaim the African origins of the Sphinx, and to challenge the mainstream narrative that has dominated the study of Egypt for too long. As we embark on this journey together, we'll explore the evidence that has been suppressed, overlooked, or ignored for centuries. We'll look at the Nubian influence on Egypt, particularly during the 25th dynasty, when black pharaohs ruled and likely contributed to the restoration of monuments like the Sphinx. We'll delve into the spiritual symbolism of the Sphinx, rooted in African traditions where the lion was a symbol of royalty and power. We'll examine how the Sphinx aligns with African cosmology, particularly its connection to sacred astronomy and star lore. We'll explore the oral traditions of African cultures that have preserved knowledge about the Sphinx, even as Western historians have dismissed them as myth.
One of the most intriguing aspects of the Sphinx is its possible connection to hidden chambers beneath the monument. Chambers that some researchers believe could contain ancient knowledge or artifacts that would rewrite our understanding of Egypt's history. While these theories have often been dismissed by mainstream Egyptologists, they align with the Afrocentric view that much of Egypt's true history has yet to be uncovered. But this book is not just about reinterpreting the Sphinx, it's about challenging the entire foundation of how we understand history. The study of Egyptology has been shaped by colonial powers who not only controlled the land, but also the narrative surrounding its history. This resulted in a whitewashing of Egypt's past, a separation of Egypt from Africa, and the marginalization of African scholars. To restore the Sphinx to its rightful place in history is to restore Egypt to its place within Africa, and by extension, to restore Africa to its place in the world's history. In the chapters ahead, we will examine the Sphinx's African identity and how centuries of colonial and academic suppression have deliberately obscured it. We will confront uncomfortable truths about Eurocentric Egyptology's role in distorting the history of this ancient monument and celebrate the work of Afrocentric scholars who have fought to reclaim the truth. The real riddle of the Sphinx isn't simply a question of its age or purpose. The real riddle is why its African identity has been so thoroughly erased from history, and what that erasure reveals about the way the world views Africa's place in human civilization. This book is my attempt to unravel that riddle, to restore the Sphinx to its rightful place in African history, and to bring to light the suppressed knowledge that has been hidden for far too long. Together, we will challenge the dominant narratives, uncover the buried truths, and reclaim the Sphinx as a monument not just to ancient Egypt, but to Africa itself.